This is Sprocket with Sprocket Chubbs. And we, meaning you and me and Chubbs, although Chubbs isn't sitting here with me right now, we're heading into episode 7. Episode 7 is entertaining. I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'm sitting here leading into this episode playing with arrow build right now. I have changed my arrow for the 2023 season. I've lightened it up a little bit, and I know that'll ruffle some feathers. I'm sitting right around 435 grains this year. I have about 18% FOC for any of you that like to know about FOC, and I shoot the Zinger. It is my preferred fletching. It is a 4-fletch right degree. I prefer red. So that's my new arrow builds. I'm prepping for a 3D shoot up in Wisconsin with Chris Ham and HHA USA and some Vortex play with a bunch of veterans. And I'm gonna run all over the mountain with Beast Mode Archery and do their 8-hour archery challenge. And I need to get this new bow that I have, the Omnia, get her dialed in and launching some carbon downrange and prep myself for some of the shots that we'll have on the side of the mountain, and then also for the 3D course on that Sunday. So we're going into this 7th episode. Love all the folks that are downloading our content and the couple of messages that we've had. You can find us on all of your major platforms for podcasting and also on YouTube. So please go out and check out our stuff, like it, follow us, leave us some reviews, send us some messages, some emails. We're on the grams now as well. So go ahead and share some stuff on our grams too. So let's get into this episode. I won't delay it too much, and you're going to enjoy this one.
Are you looking for the best camouflage apparel and hunting packs on the planet? Badlands lives and breathes technology, performance, and quality. Sprocket and Chubbs love the innovative hunting apparel in the Approach and Approach FX camouflage patterns. There is apparel and a Badlands backpack for every hunting style. Badlands also offers their legendary unconditional lifetime warranty. To find out more, visit badlandsgear.com. The king of adjustable pin archery sights, HHA Sports is home of the Tetra Rise 2-pin slider. Featuring a fixed secondary pin and secondary yardage marker, the Tetra Rise allows you to adjust your aiming point at full draw. With a silky 2.1 inches of travel, the Tetra Rise features the longest sight tapes they have ever built for unmatched long-range accuracy. HHA sights are proudly made in the USA and carry a 100% lifetime warranty. Find out more at hhasports.com or visit your local archery dealer today. When you think Latitude Outdoors, you think saddle hunting. Latitude Outdoors is fueled by creativity and obsessed with the details. And their saddles are made right here in the USA. As far as we're concerned, Latitude Outdoors makes the very best hunting saddles on the market. High quality gear that is safe, comfortable, and simply fun to hunt from. There's a Latitude Outdoors saddle for every size and shape hunter out there. Want to learn more about saddle hunting? Go to latitudeoutdoors.com and have fun. Who do Sprocket and Chubbs rely on for our optics needs? Vortex Optics. Binoculars, rifle scopes, rangefinders, and more, Vortex offers premium products that are an investment in your hunting future. Their customers are at the center of everything they do. Their VIP warranty, where the VIP stands for Very Important Promise, means if your Vortex product becomes damaged or defective, they will repair or replace it at no charge to you. For all your optics needs, visit vortexoptics.com.
Morning, Chubbs. How are you?
I'm doing well, Sprocket. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I got a phone call last night.
And who would that be?
I got a phone call from a best friend of mine. He actually lives, I think, about an hour and a half south of you now. His wife is stationed in San Diego, and he's out there against his own free will in your wonderful state of California. But he called me last night and offered me a hunt opportunity. I've never been on a guided hunt, Chubbs, ever. And it's ironic because my father recently set himself up for his first guided hunt at 79 years old. My dad is going to be hunting with Jody Smith down in southwestern Oregon. It's around Roseburg, Oregon, going on a guided turkey hunt. And he's really, really excited about it. I'm really excited for him. And I think it's so weird that a month later, Michael Sims calls me on the phone, says, Aaron, I have an elk hunting opportunity for you. A gentleman that I've hunted with in the past called me on the phone and told me that he has 2 openings for his early archery elk hunt, which has pretty much 100% success rates for elk. And it's a private ranch, but it's low fence. These are free range elk that are just migrating through his ranch and hunting properties. And I'm struggling with it a little bit, Al. I've never been on a guided hunt. I've never had an interest in a guided hunt. I like to do things, do it yourself. You know what? I take that back. I went on a bear hunt to Maine. I think I'm going into 2 Septembers ago. And, but that was kind of a bear hunt / retreat. It was more focused on the entire activity rather than just a bear hunt, but that was a guided hunt. And maybe I'm a hypocrite, but I kind of put bear in a different category because going on a guided bear hunt is very common. I've never had an interest in going on a guided turkey hunt, deer hunt, or elk hunt. That's kind of I want to do it on my own thing. And so I've been chewing on this opportunity. I mean, what are your thoughts on guided hunts?
You and I fall in the same boat. I had not been on a guided hunt ever until 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when the Badlands Ops crew went to Georgia, and we had the opportunity to go on a do-it-yourself, walk around the property kind of hunt, just get dropped off if we wanted to. But I opted to go with a guide, and Rusty Drew, who we'll have on soon on the podcast. He was my guide, and I am very thankful and blessed to have met Rusty. I mean, we had a great time, and it was a turkey hunt of all things. Had a great time. Did not harvest a turkey, but I'm still, even after that, I have a very difficult time spending money to go on a guided hunt. Now, I don't want people to take that the wrong way. These guides are worth every penny, and there are a lot of other unseen things that you don't get to understand until you factor in the gas, the vehicle, maintenance, food plots, whatever. It's all factored in. And an elk hunt, I mean, you're driving around, you're looking for elk. It's a challenging decision. The thing I would say is, I always trust my gut, and it's big enough that I can trust it really well. It's got its own gravitational pull, but it's a tough call for me. It still is. While I'm able-bodied and I can get out and I can scout and do that work, I will do it. But then I also think, if I've got a limited time to hunt, and you and I both love elk meat, it's one of my favorite game meats out there. If I've got an opportunity to hunt with a guide and with a friend, I might do it. And if I've got the funds to do it and the time to do it, I would probably do it. So it's a challenging decision.
I'm really chewing on it. Last night when I went to bed and I chatted with my wife about it, I was kind of a done deal. Yes, I'm going to do this. Michael and I have not shared the field for quite some time. And I think it would be a great environment for us to go enjoy the outdoors together, hunting camp together. We won't be necessarily hunting with each other, but we'll be hunting out of the same camp. My struggles are, again, I've always been a do-it-yourself guy. The other thing that I'm not used to is we're going to be utilizing side-by-sides a lot for transportation, which I'm not used to doing that. I really like being on my feet and moving, and I really have a love for backcountry hunting. I'm being pushed for a particular type of equipment on this hunt, and that right now is my biggest hurdle. The outside, funding, I wasn't planning on an elk hunt this year. It's a 4-day hunt. It's going to cost me roughly $4,500 to get there and back, food, lodging, and tags for a 4-day hunt. That's not including any type of taxidermy work. If I want to have if I harvest an animal, if I want to have it caped out and I don't do it myself, that will be an added charge. And then if I have somebody process the meat out there, that's obviously an added charge. If I process the meat myself and have somebody local flash freeze it for me, that's potentially an added charge. But for me, when I chatted with this gentleman last night, and he told me that last year he did not have 100% success rate because 3 of his archers missed elk. One of them missed 3 times, and all of their shots were 20 yards or less, Al. The year prior, 100% success for their early season archery. Looking at that aspect of it, and again, this is low fence. This is not a game ranch. This is low fence, private ranch with free range elk moving through the property. His property, or a portion of his property, happens to be in a early migration pattern where they're coming in pre-rut, feeding and watering. So he has them they're holding naturally on his property. And he's been doing this for decades. So he has it dialed down.
So is this, sorry to interrupt, is this a landowner tag?
This is over the counter. So I purchased an over the counter license and tag. It's bull only. So again, this is pretty much 100% shot opportunity, 20 yards or less for bull only elk in Colorado. For $4,500, you cannot do that on your own.
No, you're talking $6,000 or more, usually.
Here's my biggest hang up, and I'm really excited to chat with you about this today. You know me, and I am a mechanical guy. I've had history with fixed blades. When I shoot a traditional bow, I will shoot a fixed blade just because of the mechanics of fixed blades and mechanicals with a low poundage, low speed bow. But when it comes to compounds, I am a huge advocate for mechanicals. The individuals that I have interacted with who keep data of all of their tracking and animal recovery, in my opinion, the stats are there. There is a higher recovery rate for mechanicals. This gentleman is requiring me to come to Colorado and shoot a fixed blade, even though Colorado, it's legal to use a mechanical. For his ranch, for his outfitter, guide fitter, lodge, whatever you want to call it, he has a rule of broadheads, fixed broadheads. On top of that, he also told me that I had to shoot a minimum of 125 grain broadhead, which to me, and for all our listeners out there, by all means, send us an email, make some comments on Instagram, share your opinion. But for me, if I take 125 grain fixed blade, pick your brand, QAD, G5. We have, it's Grim Reaper. There's so many out there. Black Widow. Let's look at the difference between 100 grain head and 125 grain head. There really isn't that big of a difference. So I'm chuckling because I could take 100 grain head, put it on a 200 grain outsert system and say, sir, I have 300 grains up front. And he'll say, yeah, that's not going to work. I require 125 grain head. So then I could take I could take my insert outsert system. I could drop that down and put 125 grain head on it and say, okay, I have 300 grains up front with 125 grain head. And he would say, that's solid. That's ethical for my ranch. To me, that makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense. I'm trying to figure out where he's, to be blunt, where he's getting off telling you that you have to shoot a specific. I can understand, okay, if he wants a fixed blade, I've heard, but again, I've killed a lot with mechanicals too, and there's a lot more that goes into it than just sending an arrow, and yes, have I harvested elk with a fixed blade? Sure. Yeah. At 10 yards, it wasn't that far. So I could have pretty much used anything, but I've never heard anybody, even a guide, say you have to shoot at least 125 grain broadhead. Because that, just when you said that irks me. That drives me a little nuts.
Al, I'm struggling with it. I firmly believe that if I build a system and I practice and I'm ethical, consistent, and accurate with that system, it doesn't matter if that arrow weighs 425 grains total arrow weight or 625 grain total arrow weight. It doesn't matter if I have a micro diameter 3-blade on there, if I have a great big wide heavy single bevel 2-blade broadhead on there, or if I have my industry favorite that I've been shooting for several years, the Combat Veteran. In my opinion, the biggest piece of that puzzle is accuracy. You can take the biggest, baddest fixed blade broadhead, put it on an arrow in the hands of an inaccurate archer, and they're going to wound and lose animals every single day. You put a mechanical on any archery system in the hands of a accurate, confident archer, and they put that arrow where it needs to be, they're going to recover animals every single time. Now, there are things that take place once that arrow leaves the string. I get it. Animals jump, animals move. And there are people out there right now that preach plan for your worst shot. The only time in my life when I have planned for the worst was when I was an active duty EOD tech, because that was my job. I had to plan for worst case scenario. In archery, I plan for the best case scenario. Let me take that off the table. When I hunt, it doesn't matter what I'm using, be it modern firearm, black powder, a shotgun, a crossbow, a traditional bow, a compound bow. You put that item in my hand, I am not going to go hunt with that item until I am efficient and ethical with that piece of equipment. And I plan for the best scenario because I am training myself and preparing myself for the best scenario. And I'm really, really struggling with this. I chewed on it for hours last night. I was on the phone with Michael and talked with him about it last night. And I'm telling him that I have some heartache with this. Now, at the end of the day, Chubbs, I'm thinking in my mind, Aaron, this is a really good opportunity for you to be able to prove that you are a skilled archer and you can build an arrow, you can tune an arrow to that rancher's specifications and go out and harvest an elk. I can do that. I can. What I'm struggling with is being force-fed an opinion because it's not fact-based.
Correct. I'm with you on that. Sure. You can set up, let's say a dozen arrows for sake of argument with 125 grain head and everything. But how often are you going to use that afterward? Probably zero. You're going to go back to the Combat Veteran. And
yes.
I don't like being told that either. I don't like being told that I have to do something a certain way. Now, I understand if some guides tell you, okay, we don't want you shooting 185 feet per second. We need you to be, 250 or better. Okay, I can understand that. That's a whole different podcast for arrows and arrow builds. But to be told something like that, it's, to me, the first feeling I get is he's had bad luck on his ranch with guys shooting mechanicals. And he's projecting that on every other hunter.
That's 100% Al. And he more or less said that to me. He's had bad experience in the past. The other thing, and VIP archery, their broadheads, they have been used and tested with great success in South Africa. And I tabled that with this gentleman. I said, so I am connected with this broadhead company, and I really want to use their broadhead. I trust their broadhead. I hunt everything on the North American continent with this broadhead, and it's been tested in South Africa. And his response to me was, South African animals are not the same as a Colorado elk. That to me is just I would prefer somebody just say to me, hey, it's my opinion, it's my ranch. You use fixed blades or you don't. I don't care what the science is. I don't care what the facts are. I don't care where they've been used. And I want broadheads. It's my land, like it or leave it. I would much rather have somebody just be that blunt with me than force feed me a number of different odd or random opinions, because that's really what it is. It's opinion. And somebody, please, again, listeners, send me your comments and say, hey, Sprocket, you're just standing on your own opinion soapbox. And maybe I am in a certain way, shape, or form. But what I can say is I have communicated with professional trackers who have spent over a decade of logging animals, shot placement, type of broadhead, bow, all the information and their recovery rates. And mechanicals have a higher recovery rate. And the broadhead that I shoot, it is a mechanical, and it has been tested with great success in South Africa. If you can go to South Africa and kill a Cape buffalo with a particular mechanical, you can go to Colorado and kill any bull elk that's walking around in the timber.
100%.
So that's what I'm struggling with. Do I want to go? Yeah, I do. I have to drive to Nebraska to pick up my whitetail from where you and I were hunting last November. So I have to drive across the country to go pick up this deer mount in the fall anyhow. It's another 10 hours further for me to go to this location in Colorado, hunt for 4 days with that. I'm not going to say it's a slam dunk, but with incredible odds of harvesting a bull elk, and then drive back through Nebraska, pick up my whitetail mount, and go home. It's kind of a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, and potentially drop off a bull to be mounted that you have to go back the next year,
Well, that wouldn't happen. I would have it caped, I'll salt it, and I'll bring it back to the East Coast, because I do not want to be in the position where I have to keep driving west every year to go pick up animal mounts. That's a bad business plan.
It is.
Whether it's actually a business or not, that's just a bad plan.
And it's further and further. Okay, you get to Nebraska, then you get to Colorado, then where are you going? Arizona? I mean, come on, But you touched on a point that leads me to a second point, about this tracker. And here's what I found with guys shooting fixed blades and guys shooting mechanicals. You know me, I shot fixed blades for many, many years, and I love a good fixed blade. I do find that shooting a fixed blade, you have to spend a little bit more time tuning unless you get really lucky and your arrow is tuned perfectly to that broadhead and you're hitting where your field points are hitting when you shoot that broadhead every time. I don't know about you. I've never had that luck. I've always had the broadhead is 3 inches to the right and 3 inches high. Okay, I've got to tune that arrow or to adjust my bow, and I don't like adjusting my bow. I'd rather tune the arrow, and I've done that with fixed blades. Now I've had to do it with mechanicals from time to time, but here's what I've found in 40 years of bow hunting, guys, and you know what, and if this ruffles some feathers, bring it on. Guys that shoot fixed blades get more complacent than guys that shoot mechanicals. My argument is they figure, hey, it's got 3 blades, they're already deployed. One of them is going to make contact. And now this is all subconscious. This is all me projecting, but I see it far too often. I see wounded animals from people I know or people that they know because they figure it's going to cut in some way. Last year, I decided to switch to mechanicals to try the Grim Reaper mechanicals, the razor cut. I practiced my butt off with those, and I didn't have to practice that hard. They flew very well. And with 2 shots, I was able to take 2 deer, no problem, and they absolutely destroyed these deer. I would be 100% confident taking them on an elk hunt as well, just by the way they flew and by the way they cut. But I took my time with each shot. I was focused on each shot. I didn't just send one in the air and hope that it did its work. That goes to my other point is think about your buck in Nebraska last year. You planned for that 15-yard shot right across the way, but that didn't happen. He took off and went, what was he, 41 yards
40
between
yards.
2 trees at dusk? I mean, it was the most challenging, but you had prepared yourself. Okay, I'm shooting for the best case, but I'm able to do the worst case, and you had success. But again, I'm with you. I prepare when it comes to bow hunting, best case scenario. If you start thinking worst case scenario, that's all you're going to think about. I mean,
Correct.
I like to be happy when I go hunt. I don't know about you. I don't want to think about the worst case scenario. Now, there are times that bad things do happen, but you know what? That is hunting. That you have to be okay with that. But you prepare for that best case, you will enjoy it so much more, and you will stay focused so much more.
This week, and I know for a fact we'll get into a full episode or maybe even a series of arrow builds, because, and you're going to laugh at this, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole today, although you might dangle the carrot in front of me because you're going to love it. This gentleman also brought up my favorite word last night and told me that he demands kinetic energy. And I bit my tongue because you know that I have feelings about kinetic energy in archery. There's so many people out there that believe that a lighter, faster arrow with the mechanical is not ethical or will harvest elk the same way that a heavy fixed blade broadhead will. And look across the industry of all of our celebrity archers, and there's disparity there.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big disparity on who is using what. But what is one common denominator across the board with all of those celebrity archers? They all go out every single year and they film their hunts and they successfully harvest elk with the equipment that they practice with, they hone their skills with, and they make accurate shots with. That is the number one most important thing. So that deer that I shot last year, every bit of 300 pounds. It was a monster.
He was.
40-yard shot. I was pulling 71 pounds, 460 grain total arrow weight with a mechanical. That at 40 yards, that arrow penetrated his right broadside, went through the body cavity, hit the opposing shoulder, and the broadhead went halfway through the thickest part of that shoulder blade. My chisel tip was buried into the meat of the opposite shoulder at 40 yards.
Yeah.
That
awesome.
Deer ran 70 yards.
It did its work.
With an incredible blood trail. There is no doubt in my mind that that deer was not perfectly broadside either. That's why I'm saying it. It hit right side body cavity in the rib cage and then buried itself through the opposing shoulder. I will 100% achieve penetration on an elk with that arrow build. And this year I'm shooting a bow that's I'm at 73 pounds, and not that I'm not a huge speed guy, but it's a faster bow. It's just, and again, I'm not a speed guy. I don't even know why I just made that statement, because again, I'm not a speed guy, but I know for a fact that what I'm building and practicing with this year is a little bit of an upgrade from last year. And I will have more time on the string this year than I had last year. And my heartache right now, Chubbs, is I want to go on this hunt with my friend. I would love to have almost guaranteed elk meat in my freezer this September. I do not like people telling me what I have to use for equipment based off of opinion.
I agree with you there. And it's, boy, you have to weigh the challenges. Do you want to hunt with your friend for 4 days and have to, it's tough because you don't want to basically lower your head and, oh, I got to go to somebody's standards that doesn't have any facts. Then again, we do that on a daily basis. And we do that in our regular lives, where you and I have had to deal with people that are just emotional, or just what they feel is going to happen versus facts. And it irks the two of us. It drives me crazy. I mean, living in this state, it's a daily thing. Sometimes I keep my mouth shut, sometimes I don't. And I wish I had better advice for you, because I would be in the same boat. I would want to hunt with my friend, but I don't like being told what to hunt with. And I know my gear inside and out, as I know you do. You spent a lot of time last year. We talked a lot of the time on the phone, in person, about our equipment, why we liked our equipment. And we were confident, 100% confident going out, that we were going to harvest anything we shot at. And we did. Even going to a 3D range, we knew our equipment and we didn't miss targets. It's boy.
So this is my venting period. And I am going to approach it. That the individual told me that I had a day or two to chew on it. And I'm approaching it this way. I need to weigh the positives and negatives. I need to reflect back on when I put in for my non-res Idaho tags 2 Decembers ago. I willingly put in for those tags, and I willingly purchased those tags, knowing that the state of Idaho at that time did not allow mechanical broadheads. I willingly took that step. Now, maybe I view it a little bit different between a state having a law that says I'm not able to use mechanicals, or somebody that's residing in a state that allows mechanicals but is telling me that I'm not allowed to use them based on their opinion. And I think there is a little bit of a difference. However, I'm taking the time to reflect on myself and say, well, Aaron, you happily purchased a license and tag for the state of Idaho when they did not allow mechanicals, and you started testing fixed blades that you were interested in to see which ones were going to fly correctly and which ones you were going to use. And then shortly after that, Idaho changed their law. So I was able to hunt with mechanicals in Idaho. I am now presented with a similar scenario for another elk hunt. And I want the listeners to know, from my standpoint, I 100% respect this individual's right as a landowner and a guide fitter to take that stand. I do. I'm not angry with him at all, and I'm not going to badmouth him, and I'm not going to write a negative review for him or sue him or any of those things that a lot of folks nowadays tend to do. It's his property. It's his business. He has every right to set those standards, those parameters, and enforce them on his clients. It's my choice whether I choose to give him my money and go hunt with him or not. And after I make that choice, then it's said and done for me. I'm not going to, if I choose not to go on this hunt, I'm not going to walk around and piss and moan about it. I'm not going to say anything negative about him. That's going to be my decision. He gets to decide what his rules are for his camp, for his hunt, if somebody says, hey, you can't come on my hunt, you can't come to and interact with my guide service. If you want to drink, we're a dry camp. Well, if I'd like to have beer in my elk camp, then I probably shouldn't book a hunt with him and then complain that I can't drink beer there, right? It's that gentleman's rule. So I have to decide what's more important to me, going on an elk hunt or drinking beer in elk camp. I have to decide, how important is it for me to exercise my rights as a knowledgeable, ethical hunter and use the gear that I choose to use versus going on a very, very high percentage of success elk hunt and cater to that landowner's requirement of shooting a fixed blade broadhead. Those are the decisions that I have to make.
Yeah. Are you willing to pay to play?
Correct.
And when you put it that way, it's a very interesting, and it's going to sound like I'm flip-flopping, but when you put it that way, when you put a list of pros and cons together, think back on Nebraska. The first year we hunted Nebraska, it was anything is free game because we were bow hunting. And then the landowner was awesome, talking with us and said, hey, this year it's got to be this or better. Now that puts a challenge on both of us, but it's his property. If we want to hunt his property and we want to hunt that awesome land, think about it. When we were there, we didn't care. We were like, okay, this is what it's going to be. We passed on many deer. We had does all around, everything, but we had a great time. Same type of deal with this elk hunt. You've got a way. I'm thinking about your wife here too, and your friend. It's like, okay, you can say no, I'm not going to do it because of my pride, or you can go hunt with your friend, have a pretty darn good success rate, and if you do come home with elk, your wife is going to love that, and I'm going to love that because probably in deer camp you're going to probably bring some elk, which is fantastic. But it seems like the pros to change one piece of your equipment outweigh the cons if you can muster up and swallow that pride. And I don't necessarily say it's pride. It's, you and I base a lot on 90% of our hunting, maybe more, on facts. And yes, we have our debates on certain things, but at the end of the day, we kill animals based on what we're used to with our equipment. Switching to a fixed blade for one hunt, sure, you're going to have to practice with it in 125 grain and practice with it, but I'm confident that you can do it. It's just a matter of, are you willing to do it?
It's really what it's boiling down to in my mind at this point is, and I'm so glad that we're recording this the morning after this all took place, because am I willing to pay the money for a memorable experience with a friend that has a high success rate attached to it? Am I willing to sacrifice that over somebody imposing an opinion on me? And realistically, is it a minor opinion? It's
very minor.
It's pretty minor. And so maybe it is, you're throwing that word of pride around, because I'm not gonna try to hide it out. I take pride in my equipment and some of the research that I do, and I've really tried to steer my outdoor processes away from just believing what other people say and taking it for fact or gospel or doctrine. Not gospel, doctrine, and experimenting with those thought processes myself and determining what works for me based off of facts. And so, Al, maybe it is a little bit of pride.
It hurts to that little bit of pride. I've dealt with it, and I've recently dealt with it, where I won't say the exact subject, but it was a matter of, are you willing to accept this much for something and step over that minute amount because you want this when you could have all this, but you're too prideful to accept that. And initially I was like, no, I'm not willing to give. And then it was talking with my wife and thinking about things. And she and my daughter both brought up some great points. And I'm like, I can be very stubborn. My family will tell you that I can be very stubborn. I am very set in my ways. And when I took their perspective into it, I thought, you know what, I'm going to be missing out on so much of this other stuff for that minute amount. And so I swallowed my pride and I said, you know what, you guys are right. And boy, that's been a blessing. Let me ask you this. Does this landowner have any requirements or limitations? Can you take a trophy bull on this hunt?
Any bull that comes through your shooting lane.
See, there's, some of these guides, they only want you to shoot, I'll say young bulls or 5 points or 6 points. If there's a trophy bull, you're not allowed to shoot it or you've got to pay an extra fee. This guy's giving you the opportunity. He's giving you carte blanche with any bull, any legal bull in Colorado. There's another opportunity. Are you willing to step over that when you could be calling your dad up or calling me up saying, hey, this is fantastic.
I'm really glad that we're talking about this because there was some, it's obviously still fresh in my mind right now. It's raw. Last night, there was some push pull. There was frustration last night. There was excitement last night. There was some decision-making processes last night. I woke up this morning. I'm still thinking about it. It's still very, very fresh. And I'm trying to determine whether or not I'm making the right decision for who I am, what my wants and needs are, and what I believe in. And this has been a really, really good conversation. It's bouncing it off of somebody who I respect in the outdoors, gathering, absorbing some of your thoughts and opinions, but through that whole process, also, unlocking things inside my own head and causing me to look at things at different angles as well. I'm not going to say yay or nay on this podcast. I might still chew on it a little bit, but this was a very good conversation. I really hope that some of our listeners on this podcast take the time to send us an email or hop on Instagram and leave some comments on what they think. You can tell me what you think about mechanicals or broadheads or heavy arrows or fast arrows or what the right total arrow weight is for elk. Or if you think I'm being a pussy, you can tell me that too. And Al, well, one of my favorite questions is, do you know what God hates?
Yeah.
Yeah. God hates a pussy. So, it's like, what am I, all this controversy in my own head is, am I creating this on my own because I'm proving to be unflexible in what gear I'm willing to use in archery? Can I go kill an elk with a micro diameter fixed blade? Chubbs, I certainly can. I can do it with a great big iron will, and I can do it with a VIP broadhead because I'm going to ensure that when that moment comes, I've spent the time tuning, practicing, and preparing for that moment of truth. So there'll be more to come on my answer.
It gives you some really good food for thought, and it gives a lot of food for thought for our listeners. I encourage the same thing. If you guys have opinions on the topic, if you've got disagreements with something Sprocket or I have said, please send it in.
Full send, baby.
I like hearing other people's opinions. You and I in camp have talked broadheads. There's the other topic of the kinetic energy. We've talked and we have a great discussion about it. We're still great friends. I encourage that with all of our listeners. Send us a message. It could be one sentence. It could be an email on why we're right or why we're wrong. Again, it's a very small, minute factor that you could be passing up, but it's also how, are you willing to? Who knows? It's a line that you got to kind of jump across. And do I think you can do it? 100%. Am I saying that you're wrong in your thought process? Not at all, because I would think this exact same way. I mean, proof is in the pudding right here that that's exactly what we're talking about, and how we both feel. We've been born and raised for 4 decades plus, and each doing it yourself. And I take pride in that. Can I go out and if you said, hey, we're going, tomorrow we're going to go on a do-it-yourself pig hunt in Texas, let's go. I'm there. But yeah, I could see the dilemma.
Yeah. At the end of the day, though, Al, I get to choose my freedoms and my choice, and I have respect for that gentleman's freedoms and his choice. So that's the biggest thing for me, is of having respect for both views. And then ultimately it's up to me whether or not I'm going to pay the money to go on this trip and respect his freedoms and views, or if I'm going to say, no, thank you, sir, I appreciate it, but my beliefs are more important than that opportunity. And that's really what it boils down to.
I 100% agree with that. So yeah, to our listeners, please send us some comments, send us some emails, some comments on our Instagram pages, that how you feel about this. There's no right or wrong with this. We would love to hear your opinions. Fact, emotional, it doesn't matter. I would love to hear it. I know you would love to hear it, Sprocket. So you can email us at sprocketandchubbs@gmail.com. You can find us. We'll put our links in the description of this to contact us on our Instagram pages. And we're really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say.
Hey, Chubbs, you know what else our listeners have the freedom to do? To like and follow our podcast, to download our episodes, to like and follow our Instagram page. They have the freedom to do all of that too. So please exercise that freedom. Support your Sprocket and Chubbs.
Absolutely. Because you guys, you could be missing out on things in the future, and you don't want to do that. Hit that subscribe button, leave a review if you want, have fun.
Yeah, baby. Hey,
Sprocket,
Chubbs.
It's been a great conversation. Something I like the fact that it was a kind of a spur of the moment thing.
Be limitless, Chubbs.
Take it easy.
How's that for an episode? I hope you all enjoyed that. Yes, I'm sure there are some emotions that are a little bit spiked right now. That's fantastic. Whether you're into mechanicals, or you're into fixed blades, or you're into heavy arrows, or into light arrows, or FOC, or big game hunts out west, or big game hunts down in South Africa. I don't care where you go. I don't care what you shoot. Just make sure you're able to put that point on the mark that you intended to be on. We have more content headed your way, so stop wasting your time and our time and hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and yeah, share a little bit. And Sprocket and Chubbs will be in your speakers again next week.